relationship to it, say for a search for the supernatural or search for the transcendental. Now, all these thirsts are created by Kundalini. Just as an adolescent, when he sees a member of the opposite sex, feels attracted and fascinated. In the same way, when Kundalini acts on the brain, the individual is fascinated by the thought of a supernal power. He then becomes religious. He has a feeling that there is a God and he wants to worship that God. Actually, it is the same energy now working in the brain. When it works in the reproductive organ, then we love the opposite sex. There is romance. There is even great desire for meeting, for a union. And you will find that the same things happen when the energy acts on the brain. There is the greatest desire for union with the unseen. There is romance, there is a thirst and hankering after religion. And people have neglected all their worldly affairs, tormented themselves, spent years and years in their search. When their thirst grew very strong through the energy. Similarly, we find that in the field of love, people leave their homes, run after their beloveds, even die for them, serve them, and treat them as their models and ideals. It is the same energy acting on both sides. If you now compare the religious striving of people, of the mystics, you will see a parallel between carnal love and divine love, because the energy creating both is the same. So religion is the creation of Kundalini. The thirst for religion, the search for religion is the creation of Kundalini. And why is it so? Because what the man wishes to reach God, what the man wishes to worship, the supernatural power, is the ideal towards which he is himself evolved. God is the ideal towards mankind, is now going up and up and up and up, and it will reach it one day.
I would have thought that the reverse is true, that Kundalini is the origin of religion.
Religious impulse.
The religious impulse. I was referring to institutional religions. Do you connect institutional religions in their historical aspect with the Kundalini
You see, now the
experience?
impulse is from Kundalini. And then inspired prophets appeared. That means products of Kundalini, perfected products of Kundalini. And they brought before mankind the picture of God and the life they have to lead to reach God. And that picture and that life corresponds to what the man has to reach. That is, both are pervaded by Kundalini.
So organized religion stems from the Kundalini experience of the enlightened.
From the Kundalini experience, from the Kundalini finished products, and from the Kundalini impulse.
If the origin of institutional religions is in the Kundalini experience, it seems that this knowledge has been lost upon these institutional religions throughout the ages, because at least as I observe the contemporary scene, I do not see any present-day religions which are passing to its adherents knowledge of Kundalini, or even without using that term, structuring experience so that they might have a direct contact with Kundalini. This knowledge and this experience seems to have been lost among present-day institutionalized religions. Would you comment on that, please?
I would agree with you in this, but still the knowledge is preserved in some of the esoteric practices of the various religions, though not completely. And secondly, the correlation between Kundalini and evolution, and also with the brain, this has not been a subject of study. Even if Kundalini is accepted, it is accepted as a divine power, as a goddess, as something superhuman and supernatural. This is perhaps the first time when I am bringing this whole subject into the realm of reality and practical common sense, and treating it as the evolutionary energy and mechanism in human beings. Now, so far as religions are concerned, let us suppose that there is an impulse in human beings based on Kundalini to reach a divine state of consciousness. In fact, every religion promises salvation or communion with God as the reward of a life passed in the worship of God with all the virtues that are necessary for a religious life. Let us now suppose that this has been a subconscious urge stimulated by Kundalini for man to seek his maker and to have communion with him. I interpret it that this urge is the evolutionary impulse leading man towards a higher state of consciousness. His rise from the animal consciousness to human consciousness occurred unconsciously. But for his rise from the human consciousness to superhuman consciousness, he has to participate with the evolutionary processes, as he is now a self-ruling and thinking being. Now the processes cannot work unconsciously because he is a participant. He has now his will of his own, and he leads a life of his own. He does not depend only on his instincts. Therefore, he has to be an active participant in this process of evolution. Assuming now that Kundalini creates the urge for God experience, and also some finished products of Kundalini appeared as prophets and guided mankind to the realization of their dreams for a spiritual life. We can only assume that all this process is proceeding from a source which governs the destiny of mankind. In fact, the very existence of Kundalini as an evolutionary mechanism leading mankind towards God is a clear sign of divine favor. Without it, if you eliminate Kundalini, you have no valid explanation for religion except the whim of man. When you accept religion as a part of human evolution or as a part of his biological endowment created by the Lord, you become more religious. You have now an explanation for religion. And even it is proved empirically, the clash of opinions, the clash of ideologies that now exists between the communists and the Western nations must cease. No one can deny it, that the human body has already in it a biological impulse to reach a higher state of consciousness or to a nearness to God, to the Creator. So in the same way, When you hold Christ as a Christian prophet, you deny him universality. When you hold Muhammad as a prophet of Islam, you leave no place for him among the Hindus, the Sikhs, the Jews and the Christians. When you hold Buddha as the prophet of Buddhism, as the founder of that religion, you leave no room for him in Hinduism or in Christianity. But if you accept Christ as a finished product of this divine energy, a superman born before his time, you give him an universal character to be respected and honored and worshipped by all human beings. Then you make him a man very much in advance of his time, whose teaching is meant not only for one section of mankind, but all the mankind. Similarly Muhammad, similarly Guru Nanak, similarly Vyasa, they then become universal figures. By just accepting Christ as a son of God, or Muhammad as a messenger of God, or Krishna as an incarnation of God, we restrict their divinity. We make them human. We bring them into the limitations of our own ego. We then think that we are blessed because we are Christians belonging to Christ. Hindus think we are blessed because our prophet is Krishna, which was an incarnation of God. Muslims think we are blessed because Muhammad was a messenger, an apostle of God. But they do not know that they limit their divinity. They don't make them universal figures of respect and homage, which they actually are. For the teachings of Christianity, the teachings of Buddhism, the teachings of Hinduism, the teachings of Islam, I mean the basic teachings, they are meant for all mankind, and they are the revealed directions of collective consciousness of the race which mankind has to follow to reach the higher dimension of consciousness. Without these directions, intellect can never know the path of evolution. For instance, Christ says, now, if one strikes you, turn your other cheek towards him. And in the Gita it is written that one who sees himself in all human beings, he is the enlightened. All human beings are like ourselves, or love thy neighbor as yourself. Intellect will see no purpose in it. It will not allow itself to be exploited. It will say, now let me strive for myself and let the neighbor take care for himself. We now see the importance of this teaching when we see now the world on the verge of self-destruction. We know what are these teachings: to eschew violence, to eschew aggression, to eschew malice, to eschew jealousy. They were given because the human evolution is proceeding to give tremendous powers to man. It is only the beginning. Nuclear energy is the beginning. He will know other energies and other powers. And if he does not practice the virtues in the Sermon on the Mount, in the 10 Commandments, in the instructions of Buddha, in the directions of Muhammad, or in the Adi Granth of Guru Nanak, or in other religious literature, the Vedas and the Upanishads, he will destroy himself. So there is such a scientific basis for these teachings which we have not been able even to understand so far. They are the directions for the evolutionary progress of human beings. Man is not meant to be a slave to machine, to be a mechanical computer, to have knowledge of astronomy and know what is happening in the stars. He is meant to be